A company estimates that weekly sales, they're labeled Q, to be Q is equal to 15,300 divided by the cube root of P to the eighth, where P equals to 4 is the current price per unit. So that means I would plug in 4 for P, and that would give me the quantity Q. To find elasticity of demand, we're going to use the equation negative P over Q times the derivative of Q with respect to P. We already have the value of P, that's 4. So we need the derivative with respect to P when the price is 4, and we need to know what Q is. For both of those, we're going to use the equation Q equals 15,300 divided by the cubed root of P to the eighth. So we can find the value of Q when the price is 4 just by plugging in to the equation the cubed root of 4 to the eighth. Okay, now when you plug that into your calculator, let's see, you should get approximately 379.488. So that's our value of Q. Now let's find dQ/dP. We're going to write exponential form, and then I'm going to bring it up into the numerator, so my exponent will be negative. So this is going to give me P to the negative 8/3. So now when I take the derivative, I just use the power rule. So I bring the negative 8/3 down in front, multiply it by the 15,300, and then multiply it by P to the negative 11/3, because when we take the derivative, we decrease that exponent by 1. So we're going to get, let's see, negative 40,800 times P to the negative 11/3. Now when I evaluate that at P is equal to 4, we're going to get approximately 252.9921. All right. Now we're going to put all that together so we can find the elasticity of demand. I put in the price, which is 4, put in my Q, which is 379.488, times by the derivative with respect to P when P is 4 is 252, negative 252, 0.9921. Let me put that in there. I forgot my negative with the 252. All right, now when we work that out, we're going to get that the elasticity is 2.6 repeating. Now, what does this mean? Whatever the value of your elasticity, that tells you how the quantity is going to change with respect to a 1% change in the price. So if one increases, the other one is going to decrease. So when I interpret what this elasticity of 2.6 means, this means for each 1% decrease in price, there is a 2.6 repeating percent increase in quantity. So for every 1% decrease in price, there's a 2.6% increase in the quantity. Now notice I made that opposite sign, so that would be a decrease, so that would be a negative, increase is positive, and I purposely wrote it that way because we're going to use it in the next part, part B. But I could have also written it as for every 1% increase in price, there is a 2.6% decrease in quantity. Okay, but I chose to write the decrease with the price because that's how we're looking at it in this next part. I want to see if a 1% decrease in price, how does that change the revenue? We know how it changes the quantity, right? When we decrease the price by 1%, the quantity increases by 2.6 repeating percent. But how does that change the revenue? Well, we know that revenue is whatever the price is times the quantity, right? It's the amount of money that you're taking in. If I say the old price, or let's say the original, is $4, and the quantity, remember up here, when P is 4, we got that this is our quantity. So that's our original quantity before everything started changing. So that's 379.488. Price times quantity, which is $4 times 379.488. That's price times quantity, which will give you the revenue. Now, when you work that out, let's see, we're going to get $1,517.95. Now, let's look at the new info. If we had $4 and it decreased by 1%, that means instead of being at 100%, you're at 99%. So I'm going to take $4 and multiply it by 0.99. That will give me my new price with the 1% decrease. Since the quantity is going to increase by 2.6 repeating percent, that means it's going to be at 102.6%. So we're going to take $4 times 102.6% as a decimal would be 1.02667. So my new revenue is going to be the price, which is $4 times 0.99. That gives us our decrease in price, times the quantity, which is 4 times 1.02667. Now, when you multiply that together, let's see, you're going to get $1,903.37. So now to see how the revenue has changed, we're going to compare by subtracting. We're going to take the new revenue and subtract the old revenue and see what that difference is. So we're going to have 1903.37 minus, here's the new, here's the old. So I'm going to subtract 1,517.95. And that's going to give me a final answer of 24.74. We're going to do the last step, which is pretty much the same process of Part B, but instead of doing a 1% increase or decreasing, we're doing a 5% increase or decrease. So we know that the original price was $4. We know that the original quantity is 379.488. So now we got to find the new price, and we need to find the new quantity so we can find the new revenue. We have our elasticity of demand, and we said it was 2.667 when we write it out to 3 decimal places over 1. So this is the increase or decrease. Let's write it as decrease 1%. That means this is going to be an increase of 2.667%, and that would be in the demand or the quantity. So in this question, notice it's a little bit different. It says we need to look at a 5% decrease. So if I want the decrease to be 5%, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 5. So on the top, I get that my new percentage is 13.335. That's going to be my increase in quantity for the percentage. And then on the bottom, I have 5%. This will be my decrease in the price. Over here, when I find my new values, so now to find the new price, we start with $4. And instead of having 100% of 4, we're decreasing by 5%. So that's going to be 95% of 4. Now the new quantity is going to increase by 13.335. So now that means instead of having 379.488, you're going to have 13%.335 higher. So that's going to be 113.335. So when we put 113.335 in decimal format, that's going to be 1.1335. And that will give us our increase in quantity. So now to find the new revenue, I'm going to take the price, which is 4 times 0.95, and multiply it by the quantity, which is 379.488 times 1.1335. When I multiply that out, I get that the new revenue is going to be 1,634.11. Our original revenue, we already figured that out up here. That was 1,517.95. So to find the difference, I'm going to take the new revenue, which is 1,634.11, and subtract the old revenue, which was that 1,517.95. And when I do that, I get 116.16. So if we have a 5% decrease in price change, that's going to affect the revenue by going up by $116.16.